Hi friends, I'm Robert Johnson. I'm the location pastor at the Leawood location of Church of the Resurrection, and I'm back with you for our 4th episode of Resurrection Stories, a new podcast through which we hope to expose both our members and the greater KC area to some of the amazing people who are on staff here and who are members of our congregation. And we hope that in telling their stories of hope, transformation, mission, and service, that you'll be inspired to deepen your own relationship with Jesus Christ, and maybe to come visit us over here to see what God's doing. Come visit in person and check us out. So welcome. Thank you for coming on and listening in. By the way, as we go through the podcast, we'd like for you to share the link to the podcast. So you can do that by going to core.org/podcast. You'll find the link there and share it with your entire circle of influence. Invite them to come in and listen to the conversation and meet some of the wonderful people here at Resurrection. We have another amazing guest with us. I'm going to say that every week, that all these folks are amazing, but this person is really, 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 really amazing. I get to work with her. I get the joy of working with her. As a matter of fact, most days when I come in, I walk upstairs towards my office, and the first face I see is this person, and I'm so glad to be with her. She's doing amazing work. She's been here. She's seen this church grow and change, seen this church go through adversity and work through that. And we're blessed to have her still on staff with us, helping to lead us in the area of connection and care. And she does an amazing job. If you ever get a chance to come by Resurrection in person, if you're a member and you haven't done this, take the time, go upstairs, and you need to go look at her workboard, the details of it. It is a huge whiteboard and is filled with details that's ordering the care pastors about how to care for our congregation and beyond. Denise, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
And it's a joy to have you. I'm so excited about this conversation. So let's start here. Tell folks, tell folks about your family. Tell us about how long you've been at Resurrection, and then let's stop then and we'll come back and talk about what you're currently doing at Resurrection, and we'll move from there.
I'm married to Doug. We just crossed the 40-year mark in June.
Wow.
I have 3 kids. Kate is 30. She lives in D.C. Ryan is 25. He lives in D.C. And Caroline was our middle child, and she passed away as an infant.
Wow.
So... And let's see, we joined the church in 1996, and I came on staff in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah.
Since 98.
25 years in August.
Now, I want to, in a minute, we'll come back to Kate, because I got to tell you, so when I came on, there was a day that came, and the staff were reaching out saying, hey, this is a day that a particular thing happened. Make sure you reach out to Denise. And that's when I learned that story. And it was so powerful. And I reached out to you and said, you were a hero of mine. But we'll come back. We'll come back and talk about that in just a second. Tell folks about the work you do here at Resurrection. Go in more detail about it.
The work I do here is probably the biggest honor and privilege, other than being a parent and a wife, of my entire life. As prayer requests, prayer concerns, care needs come in at Leawood, they come through me, and in a lot of cases, I get to be that first responder, that first person to talk to them and let them know that we have the people to put them in the best possible hands to care for them and to support them and encourage them and be their stretcher bearers. So I take those here at Leawood. We get about 150 prayer requests a week. So I go through those and triage them.
How many?
About 150 a week.
Wow.
And the bulk of those on Sunday. So Sundays I sit at home and read through those and make sure, and then make sure that we have a pastor prior to any surgery that anybody might want, and that we're continuing to make hospital visits and rehab visits as people go through any kind of a process to make sure we're providing grief support and just kind of mental health, relationship support, whatever they need. And, fortunately, it's just a matter of passing it on to a team of the most qualified people I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
Wow. We had a previous podcast with Pastor Hemi, and of course she works in Connection and Care. Mm-hmm. And I was just sharing with her in the audience that it's just amazing the diligent work we put into being excellent in caring for our members. So we talk about excellence in our worship, we talk about excellence in our communications, but we also strive for excellence in how we care for our members, and you're a part of that. I want to say this so folks can hear this. in one of my early meetings, the pastors and the care team said this about you, said that we're so grateful for Denise. She's absolutely awesome because she is so good at ordering the details and making sure we don't miss stuff. That is an unbelievable compliment for a group of pastors to say that.
Yes.
But then I saw it because I don't care when I go by that board. It's like, and you already know that I'm not really big on details. So I go by the board and I'm like, okay, like that's too much. Those are too many details. But you do such an awesome job. But I also got to tell you about another compliment I got about you, and it was from two people who worked here. One used to be Pastor Adams' administrative assistant, and the other person was maybe, if not the first, one of the early persons who handled finances for the church. And they both said, we love Denise. She is absolutely awesome. So for people who are seasoned, who've been here for a long time, to say that about you, I think says a whole lot.
Thank you.
What do you think is, so you've seen the changes? What do you think what's your favorite, so you can answer the question one of two ways. What's your favorite thing about Resurrection, or what do you think is the best thing about Resurrection?
So, two answers. And I think both answer both. Hands down, I would put Resurrection in competition, and I love competition, against any church, any organization, anywhere in the world for the care they provide. Wow. And it's not just that the pastors make the visits. It's that they come out of it sometimes, they want to carry more. It's not, I have to make these 4 visits or these 6 visits today. It's, I'm going to make these 6 visits, but hey, it's just marked down that I'm also going to call this person. Mm-hmm. I talked to him the other day, and it's just, the care is off the chart. And I have had an opportunity to see what Resurrection provided for care against someone who's very dear to me, and seeing what their church provided for care. And what I knew to be true became just unbelievable. There's really just, they don't care if it's the weekend. They don't care if it's the evening. If care needs to be done, they will stop what they're doing and make that a priority. And I think that's unbelievable. And having been on the receiving end of that care a few times, I realize that it changes how a person sees Christ. Yeah. Because there it is in a way that until you really need it, you can't quite wrap your head around it. The other thing that I think Resurrection does that I love is there are so many opportunities to serve. There are so many opportunities to do more, to make a difference. That's right. But in addition to providing opportunities, they encourage people to figure it out on their own. Mm-hmm. What can you do without us telling you to do it? You begin to develop a mindset of, hey, wait a minute, here's a need, I'm going to fill it. And whether it's the Love Your Neighbor campaign, whether it's the Be Just, Be Kind, Be Humble campaign, all of those are just reminders of every one of us is a part of the church, but every one of us has a role separate from the church. And that's been, I've had opportunities to do things just with my family or just on my own that I don't know without Resurrection I would have ever figured out to do.
Yeah. Wow. It's so true about the Resurrection has found a way through Pastor Adams' leadership that the people of Resurrection do not define following Jesus separately from being in mission. They're deeply intertwined. And so much so that for the first time in all of my life, if I preached a sermon, it was like after I preached a sermon, people would come up and they liked it or they didn't. If they liked it, they said, that's a great sermon. And they'd almost like give you off, like, okay, that was a great sermon, Pastor, go get some rest or whatever. At Resurrection, I preach a sermon, people come up to me and what they say to me consistently, good sermon, I believe you meant that. So here's a way for you to live that. Yeah. Like, come help us on Wednesday, feed the hungry. Come help us fill backpacks on Wednesday. Yeah. And it's just so I finally realized it. Like for them, but Pastor Adam does that, right? He preaches a sermon and he ends every sermon with a specific invitation to this is how you can begin to live that out, and it's embedded in the DNA. It's a great experience. So Denise, you've had a powerful story, and I've mentioned about any time a parent loses a child, those people are heroes of mine. That's unimaginable to me, and so for people to experience that and still believe, still have be hopeful, still be positive, and then even still have the capacity to care for others. Would you talk a little about that? And then if you want to tie it into your faith story, you can do that as well.
And it does. I was born and raised Methodist in a small town church, rural Kansas. And half the church was related to me, and the other half I knew in business with my parents or just, people from around the city, around the town. And we came here, and even 27 years ago, this church was bigger than the town I grew up in. And I remember Kate was 3 at the time, dropping her off in a Sunday school class that was those carpeted petitions, because we were getting ready to have a building campaign and we had no place to put the kids. And sitting all through worship, telling my husband, Doug, she's probably gone out looking for us. Went into that little crack. She's probably out on row now looking for us. No, she didn't care. She was so happy when we picked her up that she didn't even care. And we liked it here. And at the time that we joined, I was 8.5 months pregnant with Caroline. She was born in July after we joined the church. And then, unbeknownst to us, she had leukemia, possibly born with it. And on October 23rd, she passed away at just about 4 months old. We had sensed that maybe something was wrong, and the night before we had a terrible snowstorm, and Doug was supposed to be in Chicago on business. My mom had been at my brother's, and so she came back because my brother's like, I think Denise needs help. Doug's going to be gone. Doug, for whatever reason, decided not to make that trip. Didn't want to get snowed in Chicago. So that night the power was out. My mom, Kate, Doug, and I, and Caroline sat in front of the fire because we had no heat. And we called the on-call that night and said, we really think something's wrong. And he said, an ambulance can't really get to you right now, and they're so backed up, wait till tomorrow and bring her in. So we took her in the next morning, and as we were in the waiting room, she took her last breath.
Wow.
And obviously at that point, we thought we had a perfectly healthy child. Maybe she had a cold, maybe she had the sniffles. And Adam encouraged the congregation to reach out to us, to show us we were loved. And so it was a pretty small church back then, and we got 400 sympathy cards from Resurrection members.
Wow.
We didn't know a single one of them.
Wow.
And those cards said, hey, we're a church family, we're praying for you. Hey, just know your church family's here with you, we're supporting you, whatever we can do. And I'd heard the phrase church family a lot. I'd never had one, and I'm all about family. And so on Carrie's 21st birthday, I pulled all those cards out, and I read through them. And out of that 400, I probably know 300 or more. Yeah. One of those people is one of my closest friends in the world, and we met working and serving here together. And I said something about the card, and she's like, I forgot I even wrote it, because it was just, she was being my church family without really realizing it. And at that moment, the church family stepped up and took care of us in a way that I couldn't even have imagined prior to that. And as part of that, we learned what it meant to be the church family and to step on the other side. But it also helped me see that Jesus was there in the worst possible time of my life. And I told somebody, I don't think God shut the power off in Kansas City in the ice storm, but I do give him a little bit of credit, because had the power have not gone off, I would have had to have called Doug when he landed at O'Hare to say, hey, turn around and come back. Yeah. I would have been by myself at the doctor's office, and we would not have had that night with no distractions to just be a family, sitting around a fireplace talking and being together. And it changed my faith from, I'm a Christian, I go to church on Sunday, to I owe God so much more. I owe him my efforts. I owe him those sympathy cards to people I don't know. I owe him stepping up with a meal for somebody that I don't know. And that changed the trajectory of my faith journey from I was just doing it to this is what I want to see in my family. This is what I want to be. And over the years, my kids were involved in the youth music ministry here, and we're both on staff here working in Kids Corps. But those youth music mission trips, I went on 7 years in a row with them, watching those kids catch fire for Jesus, watching those kids see that building a retaining wall changed somebody's life, watching them serve at homeless shelters, watching my son stand up and deliver a sermon in front of a group of inmates at a prison. I just don't think we would have gotten that someplace besides Resurrection.
Wow.
And there are places that do mission trips, but that youth orchestra, those youth handbells, that was their small group. Those were their people, and it was amazing. And now when I see them as adults, living, caring about everybody, that was Resurrection. And that set our destiny.
Wow.
Might have missed the answer to the question.
No, that was powerful. That was powerful. Because I think a lot of people can identify. I mean, I grew up in the church, but then I've had these defining moments that turned me from just being someone who was in the church because either my parents made me go or either because that's what's expected or that's culturally the folks I seek affirmation from, that's what we do, to moving from that to like really experiencing in a really deeply personal way the grace of God. What's profound about your story is that you experienced that through deep pain, through such a heartfelt loss, just unimaginable pain that you experienced it. But I think it's so beautiful that it became real to you because all those people took the time to reach out.
Yeah.
I think that's the power of the body of Christ, right? That's the power of God's people. We have that capacity if we take the time, and maybe just a simple act of reaching out to people when they're in a moment of distress or pain can be the turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. It notched up our faith in a completely different way. And, maybe the sympathy card I write will help somebody say, I'm going to pass that on, and the next time I hear, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to drop off a casserole. I'm going to do whatever.
Wow. Yeah. How do you think that experience has prepared you to minister to care for others when they experiences like this kind of loss of a child or just unexpected loss of some deep tragedy? Do you feel particularly tuned into that, or are equipped to care for those people?
Equipped? I don't know. I sit in an office full of pastors, so I feel pretty unequipped most of the time. I can answer the phone probably better than any of them, and I can definitely take down your facts. But when it comes down to the deep, dark, who's going to pray out loud with you, I'm not going to be anybody's first choice. But one of the things, shortly after Caroline died, one of the pastors here, and by shortly I mean 2-3 weeks, one of the pastors here reached out and said we had a mom who was about to give birth to a child that was, if they were born alive, would live just a few hours. And he said, would you give her a call? And I said, no, I won't. I don't have the capacity for that right now. And he said, you're right. I'm sorry. That was crazy. And so he said, so how are you all doing? And I said, yeah, best as could be expected. And he said, so do you shower every day? And I said, yeah, I do. And he said, are you feeding Kate and Doug? Are you able to get meals on the table? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, so is Doug able to go to work and you're functioning? And I said, yeah. And he said, maybe you can tell her that, because he said, I think I remember a time in the last few weeks where you didn't know if you could do that.
Wow.
And when I called her, I said, all I can tell you is we're still hanging in. It's not easy. It's not pretty, but we're doing it. And they had literally just moved here probably a month before, and we're still very close in touch. Her family's still here at the church. I got the pleasure of watching her daughters grow up here in Kids Corps, and I needed that nudge. And so what I can tell people is, if you just hang in there, if you just let the people who care about you, if you just continue to turn to God and say, hey, right now I need you. And I remember one day saying to Doug, I just need some peace. And within an hour, there was just this sense of, I've got you. Just take a load off. Stop trying to deal on your own. If you need to have a fit, have a fit. If you need to cry, cry. But in the end, I've got you.
Yeah.
And, that was 27 years ago. I'm sorry, 25 years ago now. And in 25 years, I cannot think how many times I've just been backed up against the wall and went, okay, if he had me through that, this is child's play for him, because he's got me through this. So
that's a great resurrection story, that you went from that to then reaching out to that family. That's resurrection. That's resurrection. You almost missed the fun question, but I want to get it in. Right. What's your favorite movie?
Okay, I have two. I'm not a complete Debbie Downer, but probably my favorite movie is a movie called Stepmom.
Okay.
Julia Roberts and Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
And Susan Sarandon is the wife who was divorced and had 2 kids, and Julia Roberts was the soon-to-be new wife. And Susan Sarandon had no love for Julia Roberts. And Julia Roberts was clearly not at her mom best when she had the kids, or her fiance had the kids. And Susan Sarandon found out that she was dying of cancer. Yeah. And she reaches out to Julia Roberts and says, hey, I want to show you how to do this right. And she let her in on the little clues as to what helped the kids, what was good for the kids, how to do things, and they became close. And Susan Sarandon encouraged her to be the very best at what she could do. And every time I think about that movie, I think, how incredibly selfless are you to say, I want to show somebody else how to perform the role that I wanted to perform for years and years and years to come. How do I train my replacement to be even better? And there's a scene in the movie where Susan Sarandon, Julia Roberts says, my biggest fear is that on her wedding day, I'll be fluffing her veil and telling her she's the most beautiful bride ever. And she'll say, I wish my mom was here. And Susan Sarandon responded and said, my biggest fear is that she won't. And I think about that, and I think about that in so many ways of serving. How can we make everybody better at doing what we do? How do we get the congregation to step up and say, I want to serve that way too? I mean, like our CCMs, we have people out there who care like crazy. Yeah. And that movie always takes me back. But then I also love Christmas Vacation because I love Christmas and I love family. And every year when we watch it on the day after Thanksgiving, I think, we're probably not going to be that chaotic this year. We will be just one notch under it, because we don't have a Rottweiler in the house. So that's really the defining difference between the Griswolds and the Mersmans, is that we don't have a big dog.
Hey, speaking of Christmas, because one of my questions I like to ask is, what advice would you give people so that they can have the best holiday season ever? But you told me about a ritual your family does on the lighting of the lights on the plaza. Yeah, we
do every Christmas or every Thanksgiving. We load up and take a little picnic lunch and go on the top in the evening of one of the parking garages, and we sit down, the 4 of us together, and we have dinner, leftovers or whatever, because we've already done the big family thing. And we watch the lights come on, and we watch the fireworks, and it's just a nice reminder that even though my kids are both living halfway across the country, they're still coming home, and it just kind of kicks off our holiday season, and it just gives us a little chance to be together, and that's one of our favorites. So
that's a wonderful way to get into the holidays. As a matter of fact, Linda and I are going to do that. I want to encourage you all to do that. Thank you all for listening in today. Denise, you've been awesome as I expected. So fun. Such a powerful resurrection story. And thank you for coming on. Again, we want you to share the information about this podcast. You can go to core.org/podcast and get the link, and then share that with your circle of influence. Also, we want to invite you to come and experience resurrection. Come visit us at one of our weekend worship services. But beyond the weekend, there's stuff going on here every day of the week, from recovery groups to grief groups to small groups, Bible studies, places to connect and serve. And we invite you to come and experience resurrection of people as well as the resurrection power of God. We hope we've encouraged you to deepen your walk with Jesus Christ. God bless you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.